Hello my dear students, how are you? Welcome to another social studies video. Today introducing a new unit called Our Heritage. So this lesson is going to be about comparing our native peoples past and present. What has become of them through the years until now. So to do that, we need to know what's heritage. Heritage is basically everything we have as culture that was heritage, of course, from our previous cultures, namely Spanish culture and native cultures as well, especially Mapuche culture. So it's what we are and what we have now. Our families, for example, is part of our heritage. We have parents, but we also have or had grandparents and even grandparents, and so on. Also, we have national heroes such as Arturo Prat or Bernardo Higgins, Javiera Carrera, and many others. Those people are also part of our heritage. Also, we have traditions such as 18 de septiembre and all that week, fondas, cueca, and many other things. And so is what we have as country, what we have as identity. Yes, what makes us unique. That's our heritage. And to know about heritage, we must know about past. And past is basically what happened and when that happened. It can be yesterday, it can be thousands of years ago, or it can be centuries ago. But it's important to know that we have a past and that we also have a present. Yes, and present means today, now. Also, another key concept is how things stay the same. That means that some things never change. See, for example, these two pictures. What has changed in these two pictures? Or what things stay the same? This is a very famous place in Santiago called Plaza Italia. And if you see there, some things changed, but some other things stay the same. Even photography has changed. If you see there, that's a black and white picture, very old. And the other one is a color picture and has better definition. So it's important to be aware that some things change, but sometimes some other things stay the same. And what's the case with our native peoples? It's important to know that the state of Chile now recognizes 9 cultures still living in our country. Those cultures are the ones that are appearing here, and they are Mapuche, Aymara, Diaguita, Atacameño, Quechua, Rapa Nui, Coya, Cahuéscar, and Yagan. So those people that we saw in the previous unit still live in a reduced number in our country. There are few communities still around our country living and trying to keep their traditions. So what about them now? See these pictures, for example. Try to think about what has changed for them or what hasn't changed for them. If you remember well, there were two types of lifestyle: sedentary people and nomadic people. You can guess that today nobody needs to be nomadic people. You don't need to go hunt for your food. You go to the supermarket or you buy it. How about transportation, for example? Do you think people in the south still use their canoes to move around the islands? No, right? Probably they used more modern boats, right? And with engine. And how about houses? These people, they don't need to live in rucas or huts anymore. And basically most of our native people, they live in houses in different neighborhoods around the country. And how about their habits? What do you think? Yes, most of their habits still remain the same, especially those related to religion and spiritual life. Think, for example, about these three groups that we saw previously, and we are going to make this reading so we can now understand what has changed or what has stayed the same. Aymara people have maintained their culture over the years. This includes language, raising livestock, domestication of llamas, and contact with their land or Pachamama. So that's spiritual life, you see? How about Rapa Nui people? Rapa Nui people preserves their traditions too. For example, typical tattoos, ceremonies, and celebrations. Language, again, and moais are part of their culture. Mapuche people managed to preserve their traditions too. Language, again, and religious ceremonies such as machitun, among many other cultural elements for Mapuche people. So talking about the reading, we are going to do this little activity about true or false statements. So Aymara people have lost their language. Is it true or false? It's totally false, right? They, as we read, have maintained their language. How about Aymara people now domesticating cows? Do they do it? As we read previously, it's false because they still domesticate llamas. How about moais disappeared 2 years ago? Is it true or false? Yes, it's totally false, right? They never disappeared, they're still in the island, and Rapa Nui people show and have great value and respect for their ancestors. And is it true or false that Mapudungun, Mapuche language, is still spoken in Mapuche communities? It's true, right? As we saw previously, language is a key and probably the most important thing alive in these communities. Also, these groups have gone through a little bit of Chilenization, and Chilenization happens when some generations, some members of their communities, especially young people, lose their traditions or their habits or even their language, and they take more Chilean cultural elements. So this means they act more like Chilean people and not like Mapuche people anymore, for example. Or that they speak more like Chilean people and not like Aymara people, for example. However, we have also taken part of some cultural elements as well. How about these pictures, for example? Yes, fashion is an important thing that people in the world tend to take from native peoples, and we are not the exception. Those earrings you see there, right here, are commonly used by women in Chile, even though they're not necessarily Mapuche women. And if you see here, we also use their musical instruments, and their music and rhythms are an important influence in contemporary music. And how about baskets, for example? Many people, they use baskets and buy their baskets and pottery so we can have them in our houses. So, what happened? Now, their number has reduced and there aren't many members anymore. Mapuche people is actually the biggest group in our country, but is not as big as 200 years ago. And also they have adapted to a modern type of life. And as we said before, they don't need to hunt their food or building weapons because they are not in war anymore. They have regular jobs like many of us. Some of them are professionals as well. Some of them are into politics as well, and many other things in our country. Also, some communities still preserve their traditions, clothes, and language. Also, many members have Chileanized, especially younger generations, and some other groups also disappeared. Also, we have taken some cultural elements such as words. Yes, you, for example, in the posters, put some interesting words from Mapuche language, Mapudungun. Also, clothes as well. We have taken their clothes and their fashion. Music and musical instruments, baskets as well, and pottery, among other elements as well. And as I told you, sadly, some groups also disappeared. And these groups were Chango, Picunche, Chono, Tehuelche, and Selnam. The most important reason for this was war and also diseases. And as some conquerors or colonists they came from Europe, they brought diseases, and these groups, these people weren't prepared, and they didn't have the proper protection for these viruses. And so this is the last part of the video. I hope you like this class. I hope you learned a little bit more about the present of our native peoples. And remember, this is a new unit, and see you next week with another video talking about more of the same heritage we have now. Take care and goodbye.